to the Short Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Marnisa Shorter.
And I'm Larry, and this is the Short Talk Podcast, where we take the long conversations about marriage, love, relationships, and everything in between and make them
short.
All right.
Okay, so today, y'all, we're going to get into kind of leaving off from our last episode. We're going to talk about what happened after we got married, or the honeymoon phase, as we like to call it.
Yeah, the honeymoon phase, which is most people plan for that more than they plan for the wedding.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Going on these luxurious vacation spots, Jamaica, Bora Bora, whatever it may be. People be thinking, oh, okay, this the honeymoon, we finna have a good time. But unfortunately, we didn't have the luxury of that.
Yeah, in our case, it was definitely different. We ended up not having a honeymoon. We kind of touched a little bit on it the last episode, but we were unable to afford a honeymoon at the time. So we just kind of ended up just jumping straight into life after we got married.
Yeah, it was sort of like, okay, like we married now. We're just going to sit around and watch a couple movies because we got a couple days off.
Right.
And just chill with each other and then wait till we go back to work.
Yeah. So once we kind of settled into life, we went back to work. At the time, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do as far as a career. So at the very moment, I wanted to be a nurse. I had a lot of goals on becoming a nurse, but unfortunately, that did not work out well with me having to work full time. So I took a back seat to that.
Yeah, I know. With me, I was working at a warehouse at the time, remain nameless, and I was barely making any money, but at that time in our marriage, I was kind of like focused on us being married and working on us, building the foundation, and just trying to build that love foundation that most relationships do not have.
Yeah, especially with being a new couple,
being
young, being a new couple. So for me, I ended up, since the LPN and nurse thing did not work out, I ended up just kind of taking some courses to become a pharmacy technician. And so I started a job in retail doing that. And so just like Larry, I wasn't really making any money, but, it was a job and it was somewhere to work in at. And I love to do it,
Yeah, and we always had our goals of things that we wanted to do and wanted to touch on. But, sometimes when you get caught up in life, sometimes life situations happen and you get caught up in paying bills. And you just, sometimes your goals and your ambitions take a backseat.
Yeah. And so I started being a pharmacy technician, but also it was still in the back of my mind. Like I had this, urge to go back to school, get back into school. Oh, yeah. And so I ended up enrolling into classes again, but this time I was thinking about becoming an educator. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I know you wanted to be a teacher because you love kids, of course.
I do.
And you used to volunteer at your church, so definitely you had a love for, for kids, and you wanted to do it. But then I don't know what happened. Some along the way happened, and you were just like, not for me.
What were some of your career goals that you wanted back then outside of your current situation when you worked at the warehouse?
I was always into technology, and I initially, when I went to school after high school, I went for computer engineering. Didn't work out for me. It wasn't my passion. Sometimes when you have a passion, that's what you want to do, and that was sort of like my plan B, and I would make my plan B my plan A.
At the time.
And if I would have went for my plan A, I would have been better, which is music. If anybody knows that, I love music. I produce music and make music to this day. And I felt like if I would have put more effort into that, I think, things would have been different.
Yeah, for sure. Because I know I've always seen you just really be into music, because when you're doing music, I feel like you're so focused, and you just seem to be at a place of complete happiness when you're doing your music.
Oh yeah. That's one thing that I can't shake. It's like a itch you can't scratch. It's something that I've always had in me. Sometimes I take breaks from it, and then but I find my way back to it. And I feel like for anybody that has a passion into anything, if you have an itch for it, do not avoid it. Go full force into it. If you love it, go after it.
Totally agree. So, those were some of our like goals then, but one thing we didn't realize after we got married that it was gonna be difficult, like financially, just from day to day life. We had no clue at how much money we should have really saved before we got married, and that really hindered us along the way.
Oh yeah, I mean when we was doing our counseling at the time, you remember?
I remember.
Said one of the few things that causes divorces are finances, and actually, I put in my mind.
I think I remember Bishop actually saying that was the number one cause.
That was number one, right? Yeah. Finances, and even living in a world today where finances is at the forefront of a relationship, it can really be a deal breaker because some people have this mindset of a goal, what they want to make, and sometimes it don't really even turn out like that.
Right. So we got into a situation where obviously we didn't have any debt after we got married, but being on jobs where we were barely like kind of making ends meet in a situation where we started to live like check to check basically was really all we kind of knew at the time. And then we started to have other issues with like our cars.
Yeah, our cars. I remember my car was down bad, and I used to have to walk to work. You hear me? I used to have to walk to work about 25-minute walk. Used to walk, and the crazy thing is at the time that I know I told you this story. This is a funny story for y'all, but it was one day I was walking home, right, and I knew it was gonna rain. And we all knew it was gonna rain. Very few days out the whole time I was walking to work that it rained, but that day they said it was gonna rain like crazy. So she gave me an umbrella. She like, baby, take my umbrella to work, and so you won't get so wet walking home. I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna try to catch a ride though, right? Man, by the time I got done with work, everybody was gone, so I ain't had no choice to walk.
So you were stuck.
So I was stuck, and do you know I got so soaked and wet. That cheap umbrella you gave me that day blew with the wind and the rain. And I had to run the rest of the way home. I tell her that story, and she killed herself laughing. Y'all, set me up for failure, y'all.
No, it was not a set. I was just trying to be a supportive wife. I knew he had to work. He needed an umbrella. But what made the story even funnier was that he called me while I was at work and told me like what happened in every detail. And when I tell y'all, I died laughing so hard. I felt bad that he got soaking wet, but when he was like, he was so soaked that he was soaked from his underwear to his socks. They like completely like took me out. So they're like a story like I'd never forget. But there was just like a time in our life where it was like extremely difficult.
Yeah, and looking back on it now, you're gonna go through times like that. It might not be in the rain walking to work. It might be other things.
Right.
It might be different things, but you're gonna go through some struggles early on, and you have to persevere through it. I think my mindset was like, look, I gotta do this. I'm gonna do this. I got a wife. We got a building over our head. If I have to walk to work every single day until I get me a car, then that's what I'm gonna do.
And for me, and the reason I couldn't take him to work was because my car at the time ended up having issues as well. So one of my coworkers was just so kind enough to come pick me up and bring me home on days I had to work, and that was like a big deal for me. But it really sucked. It was terrible.
It was terrible. It was a time where if anybody can say if anybody said that we didn't go through anything, I'd be ready to fight because we went through some stuff especially early on, just trying to make things work, and you just have to do that sometimes. You have to make things work out between the two of you.
Right. Do you remember $2 Tuesdays?
$2 Tuesdays. Oh man, churches.
Yeah.
Oh man.
2-piece special every Tuesday.
Church is still open.
No, not in McDonald's no more, but I wish it was. But
man, that used to be our go-to. Doing $2 Tuesdays when we eat out. Hot dogs
and spaghetti
during the week. Oh man, you talking about Yeah, that was our meal, but it got us through though.
It got us through. So, you know, given with all that being said, you know, you're not gonna always stay at that place, but the number one thing you have to remember is that you have to work together.
Oh yeah.
And if that person willing to stick it out with you, then you got it made. But if they're not willing to stick it out with you, because you have to be, sometimes you're gonna go through those things, especially when you know we call it kind of like being at the bottom almost.
Of course.
But if you hit rock bottom, you go always. There's only one way to go, obviously, and they're gonna be up.
Yeah, you have to be together and keep. Not one person. It's not one sided.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work together.
So true.
Yeah, you can't make decisions for me, and I can't make decisions for you. We
Right.
have to make decisions together, and that for anybody that's in a relationship, you have to work together and bring your two brains together to make a conscious, you know, decision on everything.
Yeah, you do. And so, you know, finally we were in a position where, you know, shout out to my in-laws. They were able to kind of get Larry car back, you know, running after about a month or so. And so we were able to kind of get back into a routine of things of, you know, being able to like make ends meet and kind of working. And Larry actually started to pick up a second job, and so that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Although I was
working two
scared
jobs.
of him working at night at the time.
Yeah, even though like I'd rather prefer working at night, but I was working two jobs at the time. You know, sometimes you have to do what you got to do. Again, you know, when you working and when you together, you have to do what you got to do. It's not no like trying to figure stuff out on your
Right.
own. You know,
Yeah.
we had to do what we had to do.
Well, knowing what you know now, like financially, what do you think we could have done different, like before we got married, that would have, like maybe caused us a little bit more ease and not go through some of those things?
I think maybe we could have probably waited a little bit longer.
Yeah.
We could have probably dated a little bit longer and gave each other time to grow individually.
Right.
Before
Yeah.
we became
One.
one, right? And I felt like that was one of those things we talk about it all the time. We look back on and be like, man, if we would have just worked on each other first, and then maybe our marriage would have been
Not
financially not as big of a strain, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was one thing if I could go back.
Yeah, and I feel like we discussed like our goals and things we wanted to do, but when it came to putting like the action in place back then, I feel like we were kind of slow about doing it. Not because we didn't want to, but just like situations were like, making it harder to do it.
Oh yeah. It's basically just. I remember doing. We used to have like $20 sometimes between the two of us, right?
Yeah, for the week.
And it was just like, look, we can't do this, we can't do that. Like, put $10 in gas here, $5 in gas there. And back then it was still kind of high, but you know what I'm saying? It wasn't as high as it is now.
Yeah, and there were times I would like ask my mama for money. Although, like, we're the type of like people, like, even when we were young, we would just try to do a lot of things on our own without asking our parents for assistance, because again, that was our decision to get married, and so we really wanted to see if we could do it on our own.
Yeah, because me personally, that was my mind state. Like, man, as a grown man, I made the decision, so I'm like kind of out here, in the jungle almost, and I'm trying to do all this stuff, and the older I got, the more I understood that you don't have to sometimes figure everything out on your own. If you got a problem, if you stump on a situation, ask somebody for some help.
Right, and I think that's a really big deal. So that's something good to learn along the way, like that it is okay to ask for help, but still try to maintain and try to do it on your own, because there's nothing like, to me, from seeing yourself go from barely making it to being in a position where you can purchase whatever you want to purchase.
Yeah, and going back to what I said, not saying it as a cop out, because some people use it as a cop out.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't got to worry about it. I can just follow my mama and my daddy for
Right.
it. Nah, you a grown man, you a grown woman out here, you making decisions. First, rely on yourself and do the best you can yourself before you rely on that.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it was something that we just had to learn along the way. And I think another thing I think that I could have done back then was just really learn like money saving tips and like making sure you have a savings account and put money into that account,
Yeah.
because a lot of those things personally like I knew about, but I didn't know how important they really were to like secure things for you in your future.
Yeah, you really have to plan from day one, and I feel like that's the thing that we didn't learn. We didn't know.
Right.
We were just going off the sheer love that we had from one another, not knowing that it takes all this other stuff around that to build a great foundation for a marriage. And some people have to, like us, have to learn the hard way.
Right.
And
Yeah.
but some people don't have to learn the hard way.
Right.
And I feel like it was very important. I feel like at the same time it made our love stronger.
It did.
Going through those hardships because we know we done been through the mud together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it was some we both didn't give up on. We were able to kind of push each other through it and kind of see each other through it. And a lot of changes came along the way where we were able to improve. Over time.
Yeah, it's not saying that it was just all peaches and cream as far as between us.
No, because
we had situations that were going on, but then it was also sometimes we would get frustrated with one another.
Well, I was just about to say that. I was about to say like not only does being in a financial strain causes you to get frustrated with yourself, but it also puts you in a position where you're frustrated with your spouse. Not that they may have even done anything, but the situation where you can't change things like you want to just makes it difficult at that time, and so it builds up a lot of frustration between you and that person, and you have to learn to talk it out and get through it.
Yeah, you basically have to kind of rely on God on that.
Oh, yeah.
Only God, the peace of a mind of praying about certain situations can get you through things.
Increasing your faith.
Yeah, increasing your faith. All that stuff relies on you getting through those types of situations.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. A lot of praying, a lot of woosah and all that come into play when sometimes your spouse,
And I think it's good too during that time to like take some time for yourself, especially when you start getting in a space where you feel super frustrated and not, able to really explain how you feel. I think sometimes it's just taking a little step back, whether it's like, going to the grocery store by yourself or reading a book or just watching a TV show in your own space at that moment. Anything, that will help you to do that. So, like, for you, what would that be? Like, something that you feel like you need to do to really sub back in?
Well,
sometimes?
it's not necessarily something I need to do. I just, sometimes I just need my space. And, as much as I love you to death.
Right.
But sometimes I need my time.
Right.
To do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it. And, but knowing my boundaries, of course, as being a married person.
Keep your boundaries.
You gotta keep your boundaries, you know what I'm saying? I'm not telling you go out there and just find your old side piece or nothing.
Be doing willy-nilly.
Doing all that crazy stuff.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, have some time for yourself. I don't care if you have to go out to eat by yourself, you go to the movies by yourself, you like to, shoot pool or hang with the fellas. Do something for yourself. And
so important.
Yeah, and to me personally, and I'm a man and I'm speaking on this, it's more important for women, especially if they got kids and they raising the kids and taking care of the kids, to do this and make time for themselves, because doing all that for y'all is a struggle.
Well, especially for me, that's something I definitely struggled with at a point, and I still kind of struggle with that, like trying to take time just for myself. Not that I don't want to and that I don't like to, but I think I just get in a headspace where I feel like guilty for some reason, just because I'm the type of person that loves to spend time with my family. So, I'm starting to learn that is really important.
Yeah, it's very important. And I'm not saying that in a sense where you just should abandon all your home duties or something just like every other day doing this. But it's very important for you to do this like every now and then, maybe once every 2 weeks. Get you a day you know what I'm saying, chill with your friends or whatever. Just make sure you do that.
Right. So even though we were going through all of these struggles throughout our marriage, we both knew that we wanted to like have a family at some point, you know, and we wanted to get pregnant, you know, and have kids. Like for me, honestly, I've always wanted 3 kids. What about you?
Yeah, that was my number. My magic number was 3, and
Yeah.
we was always talking about having kids, especially at the
Always.
first beginning. And you know, like I said, sometimes things happen
Mm-hmm.
where you get so caught up in life where it kind of stuff like that take a back seat, and you know, and then we actually got to a point where we were trying, and it was kind of difficult. It was
Very difficult
very
for
difficult.
the first year or so. We did not get pregnant. We were just like, well, I guess, you know, whenever it happened, it happened.
Yeah,
But the moment we had that thought,
it happened.
it happened.
It, the big it, and anybody that know us, they know what that it is.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was definitely a struggle. But you know, I can't even go into that because you know why?
Why?
Gotta save for the next episode, right?
We gotta save our episode about family planning and everything for next episode.
Yeah, so we'll see y'all next time. We hope y'all enjoyed this episode, and anybody that follows on social media, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all, and we can't wait for y'all to come back next week.
All right, so we'll see y'all then.
No doubt.